to talk to you about sacrifices you should and should not make in a relationship. So, as a licensed therapist and a relationship coach for high achieving women leaders, I learned that relationships are always the part where we're not really sure what to do. Like, should I stay in there? Am I giving up if I do something different? Should I seek professional help? Therapists, highly recommend. But there's some things with relationships where there's a do and a don't. So these are guidelines. If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. But please kind of take your own inventory about this list, because I want to make sure you make an informed decision. But as a therapist and also working with domestic violence and relationships for so many years, there's some clear patterns, and I want to share those with you today. So let's kind of dive into the conversation. So one of the things that you want to say yes to and that you want to look for in your relationship is there a sense of urgency in the relationship? Does your partner have a sense of urgency about you and about the relationship, and you feel that urgency to just want to talk to you or maybe come home? Now, we're not going to fantasize this, right? Because we're tired. We might have long, busy, or stressful jobs, work days. No, but you can get the feeling that there's some consistency in the relationship where you feel like your spouse wants to be near you. That's a yes, right? A no is hoping that it all works out. Maybe there's so many red flags in your relationship that you're like, I'm just going off of hope. But if I were to ask you, what exactly are you holding on to? Tell me, what are some things? Maybe it's this fantasy that you created, something that happened early in your relationship when you were in the honeymoon phase, and maybe you're hoping to get back there, not realizing that it was just a honeymoon phase, right? So if you're operating off of hope, but with no foundation, that might be a sacrifice that you may not want to make, because you may be wasting time of getting to know yourself. So the second thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that there is support in your relationship. So we always hear like relationships should be 50-50. I don't agree with that at all. Relationships should be 100-100. You do what's needed. Is there support, right? So the other side of that is maybe there is scorekeeping. I did this last time, so you do this. I work harder than you. That means your relationship is in competition. Does it have the capacity to be on a do what's needed basis in your relationship? Can you determine if that's a sacrifice that you want to make? Or maybe that's something that you're like, no, I don't want to keep being in competition with someone that I feel that should support me. The other one that might be a no-no is there any self-control? So we get angry in relationships, right? There's things that our spouse is going to frustrate us, and sometimes we may not even sure why, but are there clear boundaries that we know that should not be touched? No name calling, no slamming doors, definitely no physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. That's an absolute no. But I encourage arguments. I definitely encourage you all to argue. Arguing does not have to mean raising your voice. Arguing does not have to involve name calling. Arguing just means we're going to sit down and we're going to have hard conversations, meaning that maybe I'm letting you know that I'm not happy and this is what I need. Or maybe your spouse is sharing that with you. Do you have the capacity to receive that and to listen? That's good, healthy conversations. If you ever noticed spouses or people who get divorced after 20-something years, it's because they never really had hard conversations. They went by with time and hoping that time was going to get better, or because of the time that things were there was some level of commitment. But as we learn, time doesn't really mean much unless we know that that foundation is there. So be okay with the hard conversations. It may require breaks from you two, like, whew, this conversation is getting heavy and I just want to take a break from it. That's fine. Take a break. Say how long of a break that you need to take, and then come back at that time. So if you say, no, I need to take a 30-minute break, I'm going to go take a shower. Maybe give me an hour break. I'm going to take a shower, watch a show, and then we can revisit this conversation, right? And so we get back to the first one of sense of urgency. When you do that, your spouse knows that there's a sense of urgency and a commitment to the relationship and the conversation. So have those hard conversations. Another no is that you don't want your spouse to leave you guessing. guessing where do you stand, guessing if they love you, guessing where they're at, guessing did you make them mad, that you're so on edge hoping that you don't make your spouse mad. That's going to impact your judgment. It's going to impact your self-esteem. It's going to impact your confidence. And I think those risks are too high, because that now spills over into your career, your parenting, and other important areas in your life. So that risk is too high if your spouse leaves you guessing. Right? So on the flip side, maybe you know exactly where you stand. If your spouse is upset about something, he's letting you know, right? He is texting you and say, hey, I had a hard day at work. When I get home, I just want to shower, eat, and go to bed, right? You know where you're standing. You're involved in the process of that frustration. You're not wondering if it's something that you did, or is there a silent treatment going on? You know exactly what's going on. Maybe it is something about your relationship. Maybe you all are having a hard time and you're in a rough patch at the moment. That's okay. It happens. But have the rules been established during that time, right? You know exactly what you two are frustrated about. You still are honoring the rules and boundaries of your relationship. So maybe you decided when we're angry, we're not going to leave the home. So yes, my spouse and I need some space, but we're still in the home together, right? We're still sleeping in the bed together, right? We're not name calling. We're not doing anything that's violating a boundary, but we are respecting each other's space in this moment until we're ready to come back to the conversation. All right, so the last no is that if you are following, if you're a wife and you operate off of biblical scriptures in terms of the husband leading, that you know where you're being led to. Sometimes we have this man takes control, man is the leader of the home, he is the head of the household. If that's something that you practice, make sure you know where you're being led, right? And sometimes we go into these relationships and we say, well, someone says this is how it's supposed to be, but do you know what's going on in your relationship? Do you trust your husband emotionally, physically, financially, however you have your relationship set up to lead, and so that you feel comfortable in following however you have your relationship established? If you're in your marriage and you're in your relationship and you're not sure what those boundaries are, you're looking at your spouse and you're wondering, I'm not really even sure what you're doing. I don't know if I can trust your decision making. Then those are some hard conversations to have for you to know, what is it that I need to know so that I can feel comfortable in allowing you to lead, right? And feeling safe in that space. Make sure you know exactly what it is that you're looking for, so that when you're having this conversation, it's very clear about what you need and what you're expecting. And so then the last thing that's a yes is that there is consistency in a relationship, right? There's no good days and then really, really bad days, and then really, really good days and really, really bad days. We call those the honeymoon days, the honeymoon phase. And then we have these really bad days, right? Your relationship shouldn't be so up and down where you feel like you're on a graph, right? There should be some consistency where you don't feel on guard about these things. You're like, you know what? I know my spouse has a stressful time at work, or I know my spouse has a stressful time with family members, or whatever that case may be, and you're involved in that, right? And that you're not a part of this kind of up and down, huge fluctuation in moods and behavior and interaction, right? That you're a part of that. So if that happens, yes, like I'm a part of that. If no, that might be some room for improvement. So check the show notes. And if you want to work with me about boundaries and learning about, wait, how do I even have these conversations? Check out my 6-video series at the bottom. Collect that, something you can do on your own. 6 videos, 5 minutes or less, but it walks you through mindset, how to get unstuck, how to have these hard conversations. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Y'all have a good day.